Hello, welcome back to a special Cracking the Cryptic for Patreons featuring the Listener Crossword. We haven't done one of these in a long time, probably about a year. And I'm not going to do one in full this time. What I'm going to do is take you through what I think has been a very special puzzle from this year. This came out about 6 weeks ago on the Saturday when the Listener comes out in the Times. Well, Friday evening at 4 p.m. it actually hits the web. So this one is called Number 4677, Variety Show by Enigmatist. And full disclosure, Enigmatist is a friend of mine, a brilliant compiler, very good solver as well, and an editor. So he's very heavily in the crossword scene. He hasn't appeared as a listener constructor in a long time, so this is an unusual appearance in that forum. The Listener Crossword is probably the most important kind of themed cryptic that goes on. There's also the puzzle he edits in the Independent, the IQ, and the Magpie is also popular. So the magazine that Simon and I originally set up and is now run by some others, including myself. Now, this is an interesting puzzle. I'm not going to go through all the clues and the solving. The clues do appear on the sheet here that we get, but what I'm going to be doing is basically looking at the end game, and even that is not going to make for a very short video because it's so interesting what goes on here in my view. So I'm afraid you're going to just have to take it that the clues have been solved, and here is the list of answers. And let's see if we can keep them up. Okay, what I've also done is basically so that we can keep those up, I've got a version of the grid in Sympathy there. I've got a version of the grid in Excel as well. I don't know which one of these is going to be more useful to work with, so I'm allowing myself the possibility of doing both. There's the preamble in Word. So let's overlay that with the answers to the clues. And let's start with the Sympathy grid. So here we go. Now let's read this preamble thoroughly. Clues are in the normal order. Now that means the across clues come as they appear row by row. The down clues will start with the numbers, which work on a row by row basis. So a clue beginning here will be clued before a clue beginning here, for instance. Let's undo those light addings. Right, so this is normal crossword order, and I mean we can work that out from other crosswords. In a rectangular zone, larger than life characters, 42 cells in total, stand for certain letters in down entries and clash with across answers which are entered normally. Outside the zone, 24 letters are ignored in their clues wordplay. Along with the characters, they identify thematic individuals in one way or another. The characters' unchecked down cells must be filled to complete descriptions, synonyms of the usual ones, that must be highlighted. In clues to the remaining 19 entries, the wordplay gives an extra letter that is not entered. These spell out what to keep in the grid, erasing the rest. A 5-letter word and a ring must then be added in appropriate positions to complete the image. Chambers Dictionary is the primary reference but doesn't have the asterisked clues answers. 2 are in the Oxford Dictionary of English, 1 answer is an abbreviation. Well, you don't have to worry about that because we have the clue solutions. Now, this isn't how I would have, well, it's not how I solved the puzzle at the time because I couldn't solve some of the clues initially. Normally, when you solve clues, you get checking to the other clues and they become easier. Here, that checking, as you can tell from that preamble, is interfered with to a large extent. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to assume we have the clues solved and we're going to try and fit them in. Now, I've already divided the clues up into 2 sections of, what have we got? We've got what I believe are going to be acrosses and downs, and there is a clue to that in that the first across clue gives the answer in by, and you can see from the beginnings of the first 3 down answers, Impress, Nests and Bestseller, that fits quite well with in by. Now we ignore the A of asport, and the next across answer is soon, and we get S, O, and O on the next few downs. So this is working out quite well. We have ivy bush as a third across entry that could easily fit into the top row, and indeed we have down entries beginning I, V, Y, U, and H. Now those across clues add up to, what is that, 15 letters. The downs that we've got include an extra A. So it's interesting. We don't quite know how these words are going to fit in, but let's assume there is nothing before in by or impress. So in by probably begins at number 1 in the grid. And impress would appear to go downwards. So let's fill that in for now as that. Now, there is an A before soon, so it either starts here or here. And then ivy bush seems to be the last across entry in the top row. But there is one more letter. Maybe that's going, and that letter is probably going to have to be given by a down clue. I think we can make the assumption at this point that the across row is not in the rectangle because it doesn't seem to have clashes. So let's assume that it's in by an A, then soon and ivy bush, and then we need the next down letter after the down word beginning with an H, which is high ray, and that's orders. So let's put in an O there. And we've got symmetry in the grid. The bars would have 180-degree symmetry. So at the bottom, we can enter what would be the bottom row of downs and make them symmetrical to where these across entries appear. So we're not really meant to add bars. So I won't do that. Let's just put in the 744. And this is kind of another proof of concept of the acrosses matching the downs. If you look at the across words that we've got, their word lengths are in mirror symmetry from the bottom of the list to the top of the list. So at the top of the list we have in by, soon and ivy bush 447. At the bottom, coming up from the bottom, we have apps, esne and noyards, which is 447. So if you go down the whole list, you'll see that they actually match. So we're on to something good in terms of having split up the clues. So now I'm going to fill in noyards opposite to ivy bush. Then immediately we have, sorry, I said esne, it's probably pronounced ain or something, I don't know. Then there's a gap and then we do apps. So we're probably fitting together like that if we assume that the rectangle with the clashes doesn't hit the bottom of the grid as well. And in fact, once you start trying these in, the bottom of the grid is a lot more tractable. It doesn't seem to have as many problems as the top half of the grid. If you were to start filling in meets up in 18 across, well, it's okay with nests, it's okay with bestseller, it's okay with asport, actually. It's okay. Actually, it seems to work with them all, so let's do that. I was going to say maybe that doesn't work, but that seems to work with all of our downs. But not only does 19 across, what is that going to be? It's going to, there doesn't appear to be a word beginning with P in the acrosses at all. The downs would give nests, bestsellers. The next doesn't seem to be a word. Then we have asport from the number 5 and so on, sup up there. And there's just not really matching with the across words we've got at all. So maybe we're meeting our rectangle in row 3. Let's see if we can continue in row 1. We've got apgar to put in. And the downs, well, we have upleaping here at 14. So do we want a P there? G-A-R. The A and R are good for high rate and orders. So that does look like that's where apgar goes. Now let's match the downs in the acrosses in the penultimate row with Nara there, very useful crossword word, and avenues down here. And now we're starting to see the ends of some of the down words, which is quite useful. So lies could end in any of these 3 S's we've put in. Nerve, though, looks like it's going to be here. Nerve there. And that would be opposite sup up. here, which is also a 5-letter word. So that works quite well. I'm not going to fill in sup up because we're worried about the clashes and we only enter the acrosses. So let's see if we can just pick off some of these downs. Nerve, is this likely to be Aryan next to it? Well, it could be over here. Got iguana. That could be in 1 down. In fact, that seems, oh no, it could also be here in ending in NA. Maybe that's even more likely. We've got synapse. That could be here, and that's looking quite good because it's opposite a 7-letter word in 1 down. So I'm going to try putting synapse in the bottom right corner. Earlies. Well, again, that could use that E or either of those S's. But let's just keep having a look at that. Kashores, again, ends in an S. Blue weed. Looks like, well, it could come here or it could come to this D. Let's compare with an 8-letter down word. Yes, Eucatex at 12 down. That looks quite good. So Eucatex is theoretically an 8-letter word coming down there. Blue weed. We don't know how big this rectangle at the top is, but let's put in the last 5 letters and assume that they're going to be right, because we're just trying to form a framework to fill in some more acrosses at the moment. That's why I'm doing this. Now tributary, so it clearly ends in RY there. And is that opposite a 9-letter word? Yes, it is. Upleaping. That's good. Sensitizes or sensitizes. That could end in any of these places with an S at the bottom or an E there. Gemma cup. Well, that's clearly going to end down here. Is that opposite an 8-letter word beginning BE? Well, no, that's bestseller, which is a 10-letter word. But surely Gemma cup has to come here. Anyway, let's see if we've got enough to put in some more acrosses. So above NAR, we have air sac at the end. Yeah, we can see where that must go. Air sac. We have air, AYR. Well, that could fit in this space. And before that we have II. Well, that does look like it's going to fit in here. There we go. Oh, for some reason, yeah, sorry, that's killed off the rest of the air sac that I had in. There we go. Put those in again. Space P. There we go. So in the row above this now, we're going to have Itala. Yeah, that looks like it goes in at the end. Itala, like that. We have lair. Well, that could fit in the middle somewhere. URL before that. We're not really finding these. Eggs on before that. Don't know. Allure. That might be ALURE. Anyway, we got 3 words filled in. Now, can we find their across equivalents at the top? So airsac is a 6-letter word beginning here. And that is opposite to facile in the order of the across answers. Then there's a gap, 1, 2, 3, and then salud. And in fact, that gap is filled because we got so as an across answer, SOH, and air down here. Let's fill those in as letters so as not to disturb the rest of the row. Now, the trouble with this is it's really messed up these down words. Bestseller is messed up, sport is messed up, sup up, opignorate. They're all messed up. But we were told in the preamble that we do enter the across letters, and it's the downs that are clashing. So we don't really know what's going on at the moment or how to resolve these clashes, but let's keep looking at the downs. Now, we've got a T here, so when suddenly we know where iguana goes, it does go in the first down column. I can fill that in. Now, does I and U? Well, we've got icebound. In fact, in this row, we've got a Y at the end for nuts in May, an I at the beginning for icebound, and the rows are 17 letters, so that is going to work perfectly. So let's fill that in. And we can fill in the equivalent row above, which I think starts here with a 9-letter word and an 8-letter word, stormbird and knee pads. Now again, we're expecting those perhaps still to be clashing with down answers. What's in between those? Just semi and lils. Well, it does look like they might be at the beginning and end of this middle row, but probably we don't have enough confidence in that. It does look like allure is going to be here now, A-L-U-R-E. That will be matched by a 5-letter word up here, which has to be teams. Is that? No, I'm in the wrong place. It is here. It is teams, but it goes in that row. So again, we're forming some things here, but we're really not getting... Oh, this looks good for upleaping now, doesn't it? So maybe we can risk filling in upleaping down from the 14 letter, the 14 number. Oh, sorry, I'd forgotten that that's going to crunch the bottom of the row. This is a bit why I don't love using sympathy, because it's a bit uncontrollable. Now, what happened up here? I messed up the end of this row as well. This was salud. And we have orders at the last down entry, and that looks like it does work. And since the first column seems to have been entered quite correctly, maybe we can assume the last column will be 2. There we go, orders and synapse. Now, high rate, this has gone all wrong, H-A-W something S. But below it, we can now put earlies, and that looks like it works very well. It doesn't match a 7-letter word over here, but let's not worry about that. Aryan now is going in 2 down. That's opposite what should be a 5-letter word, so that feels good. Blueweed looks like it's all in correctly because its B has turned up. So now we're beginning to speculate that that B is all right, so maybe we're looking at a quite tight rectangle. It certainly seems to involve these cells all the way to there. It might be limited to rows 3, 4, and 5. Let's see if we come across any more things we can put in at the bottom. Let's go back. Lies now looks like it goes in here. What else didn't we get in earlier? Cushors. Ah, well, that looks like it goes in here. C-U-S-H-A-W-S. Cecitizes. Ah, well, that clearly finishes in this column. So let's try putting in the C and see if that survives. But the beginning letter of C has clashed with teams. Not really. Oh, Gemma Cup. Well, we just don't know. It clearly doesn't get all the way. So we're getting a bit confused now at the bottom. Now, before Itala in the acrosses, we can put in Lear. And before that, we've got URL. Well, that's at the beginning of the row. URL. After allure, we've got exon. And it looks like that starts... Oh, don't do it that way. It looks like that starts here now. E-G-G-S-O-N. And that's quite interesting. Look at 11 down. It begins with a V, which we liked for Victorian, but it looks like the column ends in Taurian. And that's symmetrically opposite this column 7, where we thought the beginning answer was a pignorate, if that's how you pronounce that, and that fits very well with the end of the answer. So I'm going to fill in ignorate there. We've got the end of Victorian looks good in V. So clearly things are happening, and maybe they're happening now. We would think it's rows 3 to 7 are causing problems. So let's work on that basis. In fact, maybe I want to color it in, but that's a problem here. So, and this is why I should maybe have worked in Excel. So anyway, you'll have to visualize rows 3 to 7, columns 2 to 16 are my suspected area of problems. I've had to expand it from rows 3 to 5 because I'm running into problems in row 7. And remember, what were the entries in row 7? Well, we're semi and lils. And it doesn't look like lils fits at all. But if we remember that we think that we have some clashes, let's take out 2 of the letters and put in semi at the beginning and lils at the end. And now we're just going to have to deal with these clashes somehow. We've got a lot at the bottom of the grid filled. What's this letter? does that fit with any down strings that are useful? We thought it was a sport at the top. Oh, well, we've got AS, and then we do have the O and R, so maybe this T is going to have to come from a sport, which is interesting and rather surprising. But let's put it in on the assumption that somehow the P is representing this kind of group of cells in some way. Now let's have a quick reread. Actually, no, let's enter the acrosses as we think they must be to match the symmetry of the downs. So in this row, we've got rates, space, oral, and then a lot of spaces and air at the end of the row. In fact, I'm not scared to remove this E because that might be clashing with something. We're not sure. In fact, I'm not sure what happens there. 21 across. The next row down after rates or on there has to have Franco and teams, and Franco should start here. So we're going to put it in. And now we're going to have to consider the clashes that we have. Is there anything else we haven't filled in? Nothing between meets up and Atgar, nothing there. I think we filled in all the words we know about, intriguingly, at this point. So we're going to have to work out what's going on with the clashes. And what's going on in column 2? We've got nests, and I can see NE. There is a T later, but these 3 letters somehow maybe represent an S, and that one an S? Doesn't seem very sensible. Let's have a look at bestseller in 3 down. Well, again, we can see BE, the wrong letter, then T, and then 3 wrong letters before Ella happens correctly. In column 4, I think we've only got tributary, and that's fine from the R, but not at the top with the T. In column 5, asport, but my goodness, there's a whole bunch of letters. All those 5 letters look wrong for the P. Column 6, well, this was meant to begin sup up, and that's just not happening at all. But then blueweed is fine below that, although that L may turn out not to be right, don't know. Epignorate, and P has been replaced by 3 letters there. It's really hard to see what's going on here. The next column, we had, overarm at the top. Well, we could fill in a V for that, and maybe an M after the R. It's got lies at the bottom, but this A has gone wrong in some way. 9 down. Well, there's not much going on here, but we do have the word gingery to fit in somewhere. And look, that seems like it fits quite well at the bottom, injury. Next column was Kishores at the bottom, which we've put in fully. At the top, idle. Well, that looks like it works fine. 11 is Victorian. Now, we seem to think that column 2 is fine, so I'm going to put in an I there. Actually, we should nip it back. What about this cell? How are we going to fill that at all? Doesn't seem to be in an across word. If it's in a down word, well, actually, it would be symmetrical if gingery started there. And that seems to fit with the sort of thing we've got. We've got G and then a sort of I represented by 5 letters that are all wrong. Victorian at 11 down. 12 down, Eucatex. Well, we could put in a C here. And we can put in a U there because row 2 seems to be right. And we've finished row 2 now. But C-A-T-E-C-S, very hard to see what's going on there. Upleaping, actually I'm going to put the E back. But in 13 down, what were we meant to have? Oh, cecitizes. Just doesn't work at all. High ray in 16 down is all messed up, as is earlies at the bottom. And 15 down, Gemma cup at the bottom. Oh, but look, it looks like that begins up here. G-E-M. Well, 3 possibilities for M, A, C, U, P at the bottom. So now we have to work out what's going on. Let's have another read of the preamble. Clues are in the normal order. Bars mustn't be entered. in a rectangular zone, and we now suspect that's between these corners. That's the rectangular zone. Larger than life characters. Now, characters can sometimes mean letters, but it can also mean people from books or even real people. 42 cells in total stand for certain letters in down entries and clash with across answers which are entered normally. Outside the zone, 24 letters are ignored in their clues wordplay. Oh, I haven't mentioned this bit. Along with the characters, they identify thematic individuals in one way or another. Now, the truth to tell, I don't remember what the message from the letters ignored in wordplay were. Let me look it up now, because that's actually potentially useful. Right, yeah, I've remembered now. I looked it up. Those letters in the wordplay spelt out, it actually took quite a while to see what they spelt out, but what they actually spelt out was only the descriptions. And therefore, when you fit that into this preamble, that's saying that along with the characters, they identify thematic individuals in one way or another, which doesn't make a lot of sense. The characters' unchecked down cells must be filled to complete descriptions, synonyms of the usual ones that must be highlighted. Oh, sorry, it was clues to the remaining 19 entries. The wordplay gives an extra letter. These spell out what to keep in the grid. So outside the zone, 24 letters are ignored in their clues wordplay. Okay, what I just looked up was the clues to the remaining 19 letters, which tell you what to keep in the grid. Only the descriptions, erasing the rest. And those descriptions were mentioned in this preamble. To complete descriptions, synonyms of the usual ones. Now, what were the 24 letters that are ignored in their clues wordplay? I'll have to check that. Yes, here we are. Now, I'd forgotten this bit, but if you solve the clues carefully, and some of them were very difficult. For instance, the clue to Victorian only had wordplay for the letter N and the definition of Victorian. So the letters that we have got that were not clued in the wordplay, I have now highlighted, and you may be able now to tell what's going on in this puzzle. But the way I got through it at this point was to look at Sport in 5 down and go, well, it seems very clear that those letters are all in P. Now, in 7 down, a pignorate, again, it's a P that seems to be using those letters. And 6 down had the clue sup up. And if you have the notion to separate the P's, then suddenly you can see that this is forming a letter P in the grid, and that fulfills the description of a larger than life character. So if we make all those the letter P, let's see if I can colour those at the same time. I'm not sure if this is going to work. It's worth a try. There we go. It does work. Hurrah. Right. So those letters seem to be the letter P, and they have been ruled out by the clashes with the cross clues. We can now sort of understand how sup up works. It hits the big P there, and it hits it again there. So this middle letter is a U, and we're sort of getting sup up. We're getting a pignorate, but 3 of its letters have been replaced. Now, what is going on with these letters that we've put in here? It would help if I'd put Franco in the right place, which I haven't. So let's fix that now. That's very unhelpful. It's the sort of thing you do when solving a puzzle, but in this row we had G, allure, eggs on, and 5 unchecked letters. So the 5 unchecked letters should be at the start of this row, and then we get F, R, A, N, C, O there. And now we've got a very different down. And look, suddenly we're using these letters on the P, and we've got possibility of making a word here. And if you watch it, you can get frolicsome if you start in this cell and work round the P with an O here. So frolicsome is certainly an adjective or a description, but what's going on? Well, have a look at this down. We've got S and then this huge P and then aughty, sporty. And if you look at the downs as well that we've highlighted, we've got carey, sporty, G something unja, VI something toria, and something And at this point, you are probably well educated enough to figure out that what we are spelling out, let's see if I can do it again, we can put in a big letter C here, and that suddenly makes Yucatex, which has been a problem, work. So this is cell properties, and we'll make that pink. There we go. And we get a big C there. Now, coming down ginger, it's all the letter I in ginger, so we will colour that as to get a letter I. There we go. The letter I in terms of the shape. Now, over here, we had a letter S in nests and bestseller causing a problem. So let's make a kind of squashed up letter S out of those letters in the grid, and we'll colour that. I want different colours, but not heavy colours, so we can't see the letters. Let's try that orange. And what's going on over here? Well, it was always the letter E in high ray, and in Gemma cup, yes, if we assume that all of these were part of the letter E, then this should work. For high ray, it works for earlies. I think we've got the right letter there. Let's go with that purple. That's too dark. Let's not go with that purple. Let's go with just a boring old grey. There we go. So, what are we spelling out in these letters? We thought we had frolicsome there. Looks like sand something in the I. What's going on in the letters here? Well, this S from salud, don't know. Maybe, is this chronic if we replace that with the C? Yucatex. Let's put an A there. I'm not actually sure what that is. In this grey area, we have wee and small. If you watch WEESMALL. And if you are now beginning to relate these to the names of the Spice Girls, as you should, because we're getting Scary, Sporty, Ginger, Victoria, and Emma, wee and small is like Baby Spice. Now, this Victoria needs some work. Something is not right in that. And we'll come back to that. Ginger, well, Sandy is ginger in a sort of hair colour. So we'll put a Y in there. Frolicsome is good for sporty. Scary, well, we can see that fearsome fits. So we'll fill in the letters for that. And what's going on in the C? Well, remember that we've got a column we haven't really used because the gaps between the letters is normally only one. And we had cecitizes in column 13. So what we actually have to do is fill in these cells with the same colouring. Let's see if I can manage to do that. And this will finally make it work. I can't remember what colour I exactly used. Let's try that. That looks right. Good. So if those were representing C, well, this C was from Yucatex. Let's forget that because that's replacing something else. And now what word can we make? Well, if we start here, we can actually get fashionable for posh spice. So that's working very well. We can fill in all those letters. What letter are we missing here? It's not in the acrosses because those were all unchecked. Oh, it's tributary. That can go in properly. And we've got letters in every space in the grid. We've got spice filled out, which is obviously the appropriate word, given that we're looking at least the Spice Girls. And my memory was eventually triggered that this looked a bit like one of their record covers. So let's call that image. And here we are. Here's the picture from Wikipedia of that cover of the first studio album by the Spice Girls, called Spice, and as you can see it featured coloured letters. I haven't got the colours right obviously, but they're a bit vague anyway, and pictures of the Spice Girls involved. And there we are, we see scary. I'm not sure that they match exactly, but Enigmatist has matched these letters with one of the letters in the names, so he's had to use Scary and Sporty and Ginger as the nicknames, but then Victoria and Emma as the real names. But the words within the letters clue their descriptions. Now, what does the preamble say? Let's go through it again. In a rectangular zone, larger than life characters, well, that's these big ones, 42 cells in total, that's what we've got, stand for certain letters in down entries, which they did, and they did it perfectly. Even like Sup Up and Eucatex twice used the letter, the larger than life character. The across answers are entered normally. Outside the zone, 24 letters are ignored in their clues. Wordplay, well, those are the ones we've got in green. Along with the characters, they identify thematic individuals in one way or another. That's referring to either by their nickname or their real name. The characters' unchecked down cells must be filled to complete descriptions. We've done that. Synonyms of the usual ones, hence fearsome instead of scary, etc. That must be highlighted. In clues to the remaining 19 entries, the wordplay gives an extra letter that is not entered. That's spelt out only the descriptions. These spell out what to keep in the grid, erasing the rest. So what we have to do to enter this puzzle is to get rid of all of the white and green cells and just leave the coloured ones in, thus representing the album cover. A 5-letter word and a ring must then be added in appropriate positions to complete the image. So you look at the album cover, we clearly have to write the word girls under the E and put a ring in down here somewhere. And that is the solution to Variety Show. I think it's a fantastic puzzle. You can also see from the Wikipedia page that the record was released on the 19th of September 1996. This puzzle was actually commemorating its 25th anniversary. And if, like me, you think it's impossible the Spice Girls began 25 years ago, think again. But I thought this was an absolutely genius implementation of a puzzle. It was wickedly difficult to solve because, as I said earlier, getting some of those clues from, we haven't even looked at the bit about getting the clues, answers from the clues. They were hard enough. There was so little useful checking in the top half of the grid that you very much had to rely on the bottom half to supply any help and work away at the top half whilst decoding this whole spice business. It was magnificent. The moment when I found the P shape and I sort of understood what was going on was a really good moment. I'm not talking to you at the moment, Simon. I'm finishing this. And I just wanted to record how good a puzzle I thought this was. Well done to Enigmatist. Thank you for watching this. Let us know if you're interested in sort of videos of this sort, or if you'd like to see more clue-solving videos going on. And thank you, as always, for following us on Patreon. Always a pleasure to interact with you. As it is, bye for now, and I will call Simon next.